get the opposition's view. We head to Charlton Athletic in the Championship this weekend, and Louis Mendes is joining me here on the Football Martin channel. He's a Charlton Athletic fan. He's a Charlton Athletic reporter for the BBC London Sport, and he also hosts Charlton Live. Louis, thank you very much for joining me here on the channel. How's your international break been, mate?
It's been all right. It's nice to have a few days off, isn't it? It's quite a hectic season in the Championship, so yeah, been able to relax and went to the Bexley Heath Christmas light switch on event on the Saturday, which is I guess a day walking around the shops in Bexley Heath does remind you that you're better off going to football every Saturday.
That's very true, isn't it? Very, very true. Tell me a little bit more about yourself and what you do. So if anyone tuning in, if we want to get some of your reaction after the weekend, which I certainly will want to do, tell me a little bit more about what you do, where we can find you.
Yeah, so I host a Charlton Live podcast, which is a fan-run podcast. I've been on that for over 10 years now. But yeah, we preview and review all the games. So we're on a Thursday at 7 o'clock, and then a Sunday morning at 10 a.m. both on YouTube. So that's what I do, sort of either side of the games. During the games, as you said, I cover them for local radio, BBC Radio London. So I do the goal updates and that sort of thing. Sometimes do commentary if we're the main game, and obviously I get the pleasure of interviewing Nathan Jones after the game as well. So you'll be able to hear his reaction to the game, which no matter what happens on Saturday, I suspect will be quite interesting because obviously coming up against a former club of his.
Yeah, it's going to be quite an intriguing one. I will be tuning in the weekend, whatever happens. I'll be intrigued to get your thoughts on it, just from the Charlton perspective. I've got to say, there's loads to talk about, but I really want to sort of congratulate the club on how well they've done actually this season, and massive credit to Nathan as well. He's done an incredible job so far. What's the feeling around Charlton at the moment? The best of the three promoted sides. It was all about Birmingham. It was all about Wrexham, but Charlton have been phenomenal.
Yeah, it's just a hugely positive place to be at the moment, and the crowds are reflecting that as well. So when you come on Saturday, it'll be over 20,000 again, which has been the case for pretty much every home game this season. Which when if you roll back 12 months, we were playing Crawley Town on a Tuesday night at the Valley, and I'd be damned if there was 7,000 people there. Like, it was barely anyone going. We lost that game. That was a real turning point for that season because Nathan. You know, they went through a bit of a sticky patch at that point, and Nathan was under a bit of pressure. But the second half of the season, he'd done so well. But then, as you said, even coming into the Championship this term, everyone had eyes on the big money spenders like Birmingham and Wrexham. And that's not to say that we haven't spent any money. We've spent quite handsomely for us, considering where we have been, but not that exciting an amount for a Championship club compared to a lot of the other teams in our division. But yeah, we've outstripped all expectations, I suggest, and I put it solely down to Nathan Jones. You know, he's I know you guys weren't his biggest fan when he was at Southampton, but I'm sure that there was plenty of elements that came into why it was quite difficult for him to make the sort of mark at St Mary's as he has done for us.
Yeah, well, what'd you put it down to? Obviously, like you said, you had that bit of a sticky patch, but they stuck with him, and results have obviously just followed. Was it just a case of being patient and giving him a bit of time?
Yeah, it was really. There was an element last season of players needing to bedding. Maybe he looked at the way the side were playing at certain times, or they were able to sort of catch up with his ideas. But certainly in the early parts of last season, people accused the side of being a bit one-dimensional and too direct. But now it's not quite like that. They can play a bit. They still do like to get the ball forward quite quickly as well. But certainly the performances have evolved this season in particular. You know, a lot of the signings that he's bought have added a bit of Championship quality to the side and experience, as well as picking some of the best players from League One last season. That has been quite an exciting watch as it's all come together. But you know, I mean, I'll be interested to hear your thoughts on this, really. But the main thing about why Charlton do so well under Nathan is there's massive buy-in now, not just from the players, you know, and he does sign quite a lot of players who've played for him before because they know how he operates. He knows how they operate, and maybe it took a little while for the fans to catch up with that. But just the it is almost like a cult of personality at the Valley. It is kind of like Nathan Jones FC, the way the club is at the moment.
Yeah.
Everyone sort of revolves around Nathan and his style, and I can see why that wouldn't have worked in a Premier League club at the time, especially coming in halfway through a season.
Yeah.
But yeah, for us, it just works so well.
Yeah, he did struggle. Like he come in during the World Cup break, actually, when it was the Winter World Cup, and I think when he arrived, there was a lot of Saints fans were a bit downbeat. You know, they were looking for a real profile. Then we've gone and got a guy that's doing really well at Luton at the time. You know, and he was doing really well. His statistics were great. He on paper he looked like a really good manager. Everything that we kind of needed, something a bit different. I think his biggest thing is, and you talk about the buy-in. I think the buy-in was never there, not just from the fans, but I think from the players as well. I just don't think he had that buy-in, and they backed him with a couple of players in the window, and got him the personnel that he wanted, and then fired him. So it was just a really bizarre tenure as a manager.
It's strange, isn't it? But also, I always say as well, and I'm sure you know, having from the outside looking in, seen some of the comments about the ownership at Southampton, like sometimes when a manager goes to a club and it doesn't just work, it's never all down to the manager. I mean, we've been through hundreds of managers, it feels like, in the last 6-7 years, and because as a club behind the scenes we weren't really set up for success, that does make it a lot harder. You know, Nathan got 8 games with Southampton. You know, and I covered one of those. I covered one of those games away at Fulham. If I remember rightly, he was the manager away at Fulham when you lost 2-1. Quite a late header from someone, and actually on your day probably deserved a result out of that one. But he really didn't get much time, certainly, to implement his style and get that buy-in from the players. But also, if you've got loads of Premier League quality players, with all due respect, some of them might not have heard of the fella who used to play for Yeovil. You know, Nathan has an aura about him because of what he's achieved in management with Luton, and more so with players sort of at our level or who understand him, because they're not Johnny come like Premier League stars who wants Zinedine Zidane to be the manager. They're someone who can buy into what Nathan's saying and actually look at his record and see that he is a successful manager.
Yeah, you talk about players. He likes to bring players that he knows. He's come and collected one from Southampton, James Bree, and he's performing exceptionally well. I know he can't play at the weekend, but how good's Breezy been since he's been with you? Because I was gutted when he left us. I felt that we downgraded in the right back position by letting him go and bring in what we did in the right back position. We brought Roslev from Brentford. I just thought Bree was a better player.
Yeah, he's been superb for us. I think the last couple of weeks been carrying a bit of a knock anyway. So this international break and then not being able to play against Southampton might come at the right time for him. But yeah, he's been excellent. But he scored 2 goals as well, which I know is not his forte. He scored a couple of goals, one of which he finished off like as a brilliant team move away at Derby, but also the finish itself was of real quality. And he'd scored one from the edge of the box against Blackburn as well, which was a decent finish. But assist-wise, he's been impressive. His set pieces have been excellent. And he's actually, funnily enough, since he came in, he's kept out the man who won Player of the Month for us in August. Like the internal Player of the Month award went to Rob Apter. And everyone was like, oh, he's looked really promising since he's come in. And he's barely had a sniff since then because James Bree has done so well. So, yeah, I mean, Charlton fans are desperate for him to stay in January. Obviously, we don't know how that's going to work with structure of any deal. We don't know what sort of wages he's on because he signed for you guys in the Premier League. Whereas, obviously, we're a Championship club who won't be the top wage spenders in our division anyway. So yeah, whether it can happen or not, I don't know, but he certainly seems to like working with Nathan Jones. Nathan Jones clearly trusts him, and Charlton fans have been very, very impressed so far.
Yeah, he definitely brings the best out in players. Well, certain players, Danny Jones, like players that he's worked with. He worked with him at Luton. He's bringing the best out of Breezy once again. Other players that have performed for you, looking ahead to the game of the weekend, is there injury concerns at this moment in time? Obviously, if people coming back from the international break, you spoke about James Bree having that knock. Is there other players that could potentially miss the weekend?
Yeah, we're just starting to have a bit of a crisis now, injury wise. So we've been missing a few, like Amari Bell, who came in in the summer. Another man that Nathan Jones has worked with at Luton. But I mean, he's been up there as one of my favourite players so far this season. And we actually had quite low expectations. But yeah, he's been injured last couple of weeks. I think Reece Burke missed some time out. Miles Leeburn away at Wrexham just before the international break. He was a bit confusing because he was named as a substitute, but then normally they announce, but it sounds like he actually got injured during the warm-up and he wasn't actually on the bench. So a lot of people were really confused as to why he didn't come on. We've got no Matty Godden, who was last season's top goal scorer, has not played a single minute of football this season. And we lost Charlie Kelman. He finally broke his duck for us. You know, he's done quite a lot of good stuff for us, Charlie Kelman, but scoring hadn't been that yet. And he finally got his first goal for us against Swansea a couple of weeks ago, and then was immediately came off injured. So we're missing some big names. I probably missed a couple there as well, actually. But yeah, well, there's some players that we're missing that have been a big part of us. You know, we still performed pretty well. Even the Wrexham game on another day, we could have gone in at half time, a goal up, maybe 2 up. So it's not affected us too much. But at some point, you know, when your best players are out, you're never going to be quite at the level you have been at the start of the season.
Yeah, you want everyone fit, that's for sure. Like you spoke about the result before the international break against Wrexham. You said unlucky in that. The week before that, the Tuesday before, you beat West Bromwich Albion, really good result at the Valley, a draw with Swansea, and then you kind of look back across the fixtures, and that one that really stands out for me and the performance on the night had to be at Portman Road, didn't it, against Ipswich Town, newly relegated. You were brilliant on the night.
Yeah, it's just super. We've been treated to some absolute crackers. I mean, even that West Brom win at the Valley was literally 95th minute winner, so that was a great one.
Late,
as well.
Wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, the Ipswich one, in terms of a performance, like, you know, I mean, Ipswich look a good side. I know, like when you come down from the Premier League, you're burdened by expectation, as you guys know as well. But
yeah,
Ipswich, I mean, the way they pinged the ball around in that first half, you know, we were saying, oh, it looks like we could be in for a long night here, but we don't give up many chances. That's what we like. Even when they were playing really well, we actually defended really resolutely, as you come to expect from us, and then started to have a couple of moments towards the end of the first half. And I remember texting all my mates at half time going, I reckon, sort of half sarcastic, oh, we're going to nick this. I can feel us nicking this. You know, still thinking it's going to be a tough second half. And then we scored three times in a 12-minute spell shortly after half time. Just absolutely blew them away. And we could have won 4 or 5. We had chances to extend that in the second half as well. And we are more than capable of doing that to anyone in this division. Like we are so good defensively, and we've got more attacking flair this season than we did in League One last season. Like we've improved going forwards. And on our day, we can score goals. We're not the highest goal scorers in the division by any stretch, but if things drop in the right place for us, we've got players who can punish. And yeah, that was just a fantastic night. Our last 2 visits to Portman Road before that were a 4-0 defeat and then a 6-0 defeat. So that 3-0 win there, a bit of an unexpected one, banished a few demons for us. It was a very, very special evening.
Yeah, and it's like no surprise. You talk about the performances and the results against West Brom and Ipswich, and you've been in and around the playoffs pretty much all season. Like even now, you're 3 points off it. You know, a result against ourselves at the weekend would put you right back in there. Do you see yourselves? You know, obviously with injuries, you've got players to come back. Could you do something really special this season, Charlton Athletic? It's a big club. You know, it's a well supported. You know, it's a decent football club, isn't it?
Yeah, no, we're a sleeping giant to use the phrase. I don't think we can use that when we're in the Championship, but when we're in League One, I like that phrase because it was we've been slumbering for quite a few years, unfortunately. But I wouldn't rule it out. You know, I'm not sitting here saying I'll be disappointed if we didn't get playoffs, but and if we finished 12th, I'd be really happy for a first season back in the division. But it feels really open, like yourselves, Leicester. You know, Ipswich not quite as good as everyone expected at the start of the season. It just feels like it's a little bit more open than you'd expect. There's sides up there who I'd suggest at the start of the season, like Hull and us, were among the bookies' favourites to go down. I suspect Preston weren't massively backed either. So there's some sides in and around it who have probably surprised a few. So look, there's going to be 1 or 2 sides in the playoffs this year that no one expects. It could easily be us, but at the same time, if we finish 12th, I wouldn't be shocked, and I also wouldn't be disappointed at all.
Yeah, no, I when I did my early season predictions, like everyone does, if you have a YouTube channel or a podcast, you do your early season predictions. I always thought that Charlton would be more than comfortable for mid-table. I thought you'd have a better season than Wrexham. I thought Birmingham would have done better than what they would have done, but I just knew with Nathan Jones knowing this division and having that momentum from League One going into the Championship, I just thought it felt like it felt that there was something that was brewing at Charlton. That's how I kind of felt looking from the outside in. Who's performing? Who's been the key players? You had some great players in League One last year. You've added a bit of quality. Who's been the standout players?
So I think always when you hear this, you're always tempted to go for the top scorer, which I will do. But at the same time, it's been a bit of a surprise, Sonny Carey. So we picked him up from Blackpool in the summer on a free. It was our first transfer. And I wouldn't say underwhelmed, but people didn't really know what to expect. He'd played a season in the Championship before with Blackpool, and he ended last season really, really strongly. But considering we also signed Harvey Nibbs, who was right up there amongst the League One attacking midfielder goal scorers last season, people thought it's probably going to be Nibbs who takes that place in the number 10 role. But Carey's been so good, 5 goals, including one of the ones at Ipswich, the one that got us up and running against Ipswich. He's been absolutely superb. So he's definitely one that stands out. So direct, loves to shoot from outside the area. I'm a big fan of him already. I will say Lloyd Jones, our centre back, plays in the middle of the three at the back. His first real season in the Championship, made about 5 appearances in that division for Luton a number of years ago. But he's been absolutely brilliant. So in his first full season, the step up he's made has been absolutely superb. And I think statistically, he seems to be quite high in all the central defensive stats. He's one of those who seems to be topping like the who scored numbers and that sort of thing. So he's been really good defense. Like as I said, defensively we are so good. So I'd pick him out as well. I mean, there's loads you can mention.
You've had 6 clean sheets, haven't you, in the league? I'm just looking now. 6 clean sheets. We've only had 2.
Yeah,
it's quite incredible. 6 clean sheets is phenomenal.
Yeah, and it should be more really as well, because if you look, I mean, we lost. Everyone harks back to this game. The only game we've lost at home so far this season was against Leicester, and I mean, we should have won it about 3-1. And to be fair, their one was just an absolute worldie from outside the area into the top corner. So on any other day, that's a clean sheet. So it could be more, but we are a side that is built off clean sheets. So last season, I think it was 26 in all competitions, including the EFL trophy and the playoffs. We kept 3 clean sheets in the playoffs, which is no mean feat as well. But that 26 was a club record for a single season. And it comes off the back of the season before where we got 5, which was an absolute disgrace. And even when Nathan came in and put them into a bit of shape defensively, they still struggled to keep clean sheets. And towards the end of that season, I remember him saying, I interviewed him after a game at Cambridge, and he basically came out and said, look, 3 managers have tried to sort this lot out. The personnel ain't good enough. We still had a few games left. He's like, he's not good enough. Like I could have handpicked which ones weren't good enough, and a lot of them end up in non-league and League 2 or in the Ballers League or stuff like that. But yeah, defensively we're so strong, and so top clean sheets. I think equal possibly with someone last time I checked. So yeah, we deserve that. And like
you've only conceded 12 goals. You've only conceded 12 goals. We've conceded, Saints, 21 goals. Which it puts it into perspective, doesn't it?
Yeah, and that, like I say, that's what we're built on. We're so good, and I always joke on our pod that I'm really boring, but I always really appreciate a side that's defensively sound more so than a side that's really exciting and flary going forward. Just because that organisation, structure, that sort of thing, which Nathan is obviously very good at. You know how hard you have to work at that. That is not just like 20 minutes in training. That's a mindset around the club, and that's why I love watching a structure where teams can't even get into our penalty area. So one interesting, again, boring stat that I found was in terms that I think it was on Who Scored, they do shots against percentage of where it's from, and we have the highest percentage, I think, in the division, or one of them, for our shots against being from outside the area. So most teams can't get in our box. And that just it was. I was so pleased when I found that stat, because that sort of summed up.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah, it's an incredible stat. Yeah.
Yeah, for us, that's concerning when we're very toothless in the final third, and we struggle to get in near anyone's box for large parts of games. You know, we don't create enough. We went to QPR, our last London trip, and I think we created 2 shots on target in the whole of the game. I think they had near on 30 shots on goal in the second half alone. So I do fear for us a little bit at the weekend, and Saints fans will be tuning in and say, "Come on, Martin, don't be so negative." But I just see this being such a tough game. Now we play yourselves on Saturday. We've got Leicester at St Mary's and Millwall. And when I look at the 3 fixtures, I actually probably see the game against you guys at the weekend, as the toughest of the 3, just for the fact it's Nathan Jones and what you guys are doing at the moment.
Yeah, and I'd say coming to us as well. So Nathan, I'd have to say, I think a couple of games ago I looked this up. So he's on something like 36, 37 league games that he's managed at the Valley now, and we've lost 3, which is an
Wow.
incredible
He's only lost
return.
3 games. What, at the Valley? What, in all
Yeah,
competitions?
in the league out of
In the league?
36. So that
Oh,
would
that's
bump up
good
by
going, isn't
1.
it?
That would bump up by 1 if you add the playoff semi-final. I think we lost a League Cup game there against Birmingham last season, and I think we lost an EFL Trophy game. So even if you if you add about 3 or 4 more games in the trophies and stuff, it'd only be a couple more defeats. But yeah, our home record is unbelievable.
3 league defeats. That's unbelievable, isn't it? That is
Yeah.
good. That is good going. What's he like to interview? You said you get to interview him as part of your work at the weekends. What's he like to deal with?
He's very, very intense, as I'm sure you can imagine. Like we have like, especially because if you bear in mind, like I say, maybe a year ago things weren't going very well, so he was being put under a bit of pressure from the stands, and therefore you're asking questions along those lines. And then sort of when we started doing well, that was always at the back of his head. And I gave him a stat once about how Charlton have won 1 in 9, and before I could even finish what the question was, he was like, "Well, 2 in 10." I was like, yeah. And I was right. And then a few weeks later, when we had a good run, I brought up another stat. And he was like, well, yeah, you're the stat guy. I remember 1 in 9. I was like, all right, okay.
Yeah.
But he's been a lot more relaxed this season, actually. To the extent that I've noticeably, not just for me, but for everyone who interviews him. And then he got me good and proper a couple of weeks ago up at Hull. So just after the Ipswich game, the weekend before, we'd beaten Sheffield Wednesday at home, beat Ipswich, got a last minute goal at Hull, which made it like a good week. But Nathan's very, very pernickety about every single word you use in every sentence. So I said, that's a really good, solid week, that. And he went, solid. And then he really was like, that's not, no, you got to be more enthusiastic than that. He's quite playful with it, but it's quite funny. But yeah, he's intense. Like if something, for example, if something can, if the chant comes out of the Southampton end on Saturday, he'd probably have something to say about it. Not long after we beat Ipswich, Ashley Young spoke to their local BBC and said we'd celebrated like we'd won the cup final. So when I asked him about that, he had something to say about it. He's not shy to give his opinions, and yeah, and more so like on a match day press conference, he can be quite het up and the energy's still there. I quite enjoy. I don't go to them due to my day job, but his Thursday pre-match press conferences where he gives more thoughtful answers about football and stuff. I find those really fascinating as well, because he obviously knows so much about the game and how he wants the club and his team to progress. So yeah, he's a very interesting person to interview. But like I say, you got to be at the very top of your game, and there's been 1 or 2 times where I haven't been, and he's caught me out.
Yeah, that's certainly a manager you need to be on your toes with. Out of all the managers that you've interviewed, who's been your favourite? It's a good question for you.
That's a tough one, really. So, it's easy to say now that he's gone, but Johnny Jackson, who managed us briefly, is now doing fantastically at Wimbledon. That was an interesting one because we grew up with him as our captain. And we had quite a good relationship with him as a podcast. So then when he's a manager and we're having a bit of a run, I found it really weird doing interviews like that. But he was good. Like when it was going well in particular, I enjoyed interviewing him. Who else was a good one? Lee Bowyer. Yeah, I think Lee Bowyer again, like unbelievable character, very successful with us. Again, not afraid to say what he's thinking and could get a bit het up after results. So he's right up there as well. We've had some really boring ones as well, and some ones where it just got a bit uncomfortable. So like Nigel Adkins, obviously, who you guys know very well.
Yeah, we know him well.
Didn't really work out with us for him again comes a lot of it will come down to the club was not set up for success when he was there behind the scenes, which didn't help. And I know he didn't get things he wanted in transfer windows and that sort of stuff, but such a nice bloke, and it didn't feel good when he was under pressure. Like, he was under real pressure, and you had to put him under. And I found that quite uncomfortable. Similar with Michael Appleton last year, like not the most expressive, but he was quite hard to work with. Dean Holden was a nice one. I don't know if you guys know much about Dean. He managed us up at Hull now as the assistant boss, but he was a really nice chap. But again, we weren't set up for success when he was here, and things behind the scenes needed to sharpen up before that success was forthcoming.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. Thank you for answering that, because it's just like, for me, it's intriguing. And I forgot about Nigel Atkins, and the Saints fans tuning in. There's a massive affinity with Nigel Atkins. There's a lot of fans actually calling for him to return now. I think his time is done as a manager. Personally, I've never really said that on camera, but he's a great guy, lovely human being. You're set up for an absolute cracker this weekend against Southampton. Nathan will definitely want to get one over on his ex and his ex club. How do you see it unraveling? What's your thoughts on it?
I'll back us against anyone at home. I really would. Like I say, I mean, we've drawn one and lost one home game and won the rest of them. The one we drew against Millwall, we absolutely would have won if Kane Ramsey, former Saint, didn't get sent off with about 20 minutes left, and then they only equalised late on. And like I say, the Leicester game, on another day we win that 3-0, let alone losing it 1-0. So we really could be sitting on the back of a perfect home record here. We're really not far off it. So a Southampton side who, I mean, I know you've had a little pickup. You know, I'm sure you're not getting carried away, but
we've only played QPR, and we got battered for the last 30 minutes, and we played Sheffield Wednesday at home. You know, you have to put it into perspective. Sheffield Wednesday are depleted. They've got a lot of young kids, not a lot of senior players. It's always a game that a parachute payment team should be winning, and the same with QPR, really. But you know, I look at the game against Preston, and I see very similar features in the way that they went about playing against us, and they hit us on the counter. They went long a couple of times and went in behind us big time. So they proper give us a good hide in second half. Preston did, and I see something similar the weekend in the way that you guys are play.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm hoping for. So like I say, I go into every home game confident that we're going to win. So I would see that. Like I don't expect it to be a massively free scoring game, like maybe a 1-0, 2-0 to us, or a 2-1.
Yeah, it'd be one or two in it.
Yeah, so I don't think there'll be much in it, but I back us to win.
Yeah, no, that's my thoughts on it. I think you're absolutely, I think you're spot on. It's been great to have you here. I need to grab a score prediction. You're fancying your team at home from what you're saying. What's your score prediction? You're going to go with 1-0, 2-1?
Yeah, I'll say 1-0 to us. Yeah, I'll take that all day long.
Yeah, Saints fans won't like me, but no, I am with you. I think I'm not convinced we'll get the result we need at the weekend. Tonda Eckert, young man in charge of Southampton. It's a really, really, really big test for him. Louis, it's been an absolute pleasure having you here on the show. It's been great to speak to you. I've had some good guests this year, but you're without doubt right up there with the best that we've had. So thank you very much indeed.
It's very kind. Yeah, I've really enjoyed coming on.